Hi Poke fans, Harry here, and welcome to my breakdown of the 10th episode of the Aim to be a Pokemon Master series, the episode Ash and Latios. And this episode was amazing, and it finally resolves the Latias storyline which has been following this whole series. But before we get into the video, don't forget to subscribe, also leave a like and comment down below, and let's get into the video. So this episode starts with how the last episode ended, with Latias showing Ash and the gang a vision of Latios breaking out of some facility. And this episode actually has the same title in English that it does in Japan, when of course translated, of course being Ash and Latios, showing that the two main characters of this episode are of course Ash and the Latios that we eventually meet. And this episode has a similar plot to the movie Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias. And by this episode having a plot similar to that movie, and of course the two main Pokemon being Latios and Latias, there are of course a lot of references to the Pokemon movie Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias. And then the intro plays, and in the Pokemon section, it shows Ash's Alola team. And first up, we see Rowlet in the episode First Catch in Alola Ketchum style. And this moment is from when they saw Rowlet's herd filled of Pikipek, a Trumbeak, and a Toucanon. And this is the episode that Rowlet actually decided to join Ash's team. And then we see Rockruff, which is Lycanroc's pre-evolved form, in the episode Rising from the Ruins. And this is the episode that evolved into the special Lycanroc form, the Dusk form Lycanroc. And then we see Poipole, which is Naganagel's pre-evolved form, in the episode Securing the Future. And this is when Poipole drew a picture of Ash and Pikachu to say goodbye to them when it stayed on its home planet in, of course, the episode Securing the Future. We also see another legendary of Ash's team being Cosmog, which is Solgalio's pre-evolved form, in the episode A Dream Encounter. And this is when Ash came across Cosmog after promising to look after it to Solgaleo and Lunala in a dream he had of Solgaleo, Lunala, and this Cosmog. And then also we see the mythical Maltan, which is Melmetal's pre-evolved form, in the episode Show Me the Metal, which is when Ash and his friends first came across a bunch of Maltans, and one accidentally fell asleep in his backpack after following Rowlet, as it seemed to be fascinated with Rowlet and it fell asleep along with Rowlet. And last but not least, we see Litten, which is Incineroar's pre-evolved form, in the episode One Journey Ends, Another Begins, ... which is the episode in which Ash caught it, and this moment is after it sees Stoutland in the clouds, which of course was like, it lived with Litten until it unfortunately passed away. That episode is so sad. But of course we are not talking about that episode. So back to this episode, we see Latias sensing Latios, and it leads Ash and the gang into, well, of course them following her, with them riding on Brock's Steelix to keep up with Latias. And Brock's Steelix was first seen as an Onix in the episode Showdown in Pewter City. And Onix was seen to have evolved into a Steelix in the episode Great in Spaces, when Brock, of course, went back to his family and caught back up with his old Pokemon, one of which being his Onix, which had evolved into Steelix. And its last appearance was in the episode Brock and Silent and the Forest Witch, which I did a breakdown on, which I will link up in the cards above, so check that out if you haven't already. And while Ash and the gang are following Latias on Brock's Steelix, it is revealed to Ash that Latias has been watching them this whole time, of course, and then we see all her appearances in this series. And she was the one to save Ash and Pikachu from falling into a river in the episode The Same Moon, Now and Forever, which again I did a breakdown on, which I will link up in the cards above, so check that out if you haven't already. And then we see Latias sensing Latios again, and we see Latios getting injured by the villain of this episode, which is a Pokemon hunter. And this hunter has a similar design to Hunter J, which appeared in the Pokemon series Diamond and Pearl in a couple of episodes. And the similarities to Hunter J are a lot. Because just like this hunter, Hunter J also flew on a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, being her Salamence, and this new hunter rides on a pseudo-legendary Pokemon, being a Hydreigon. And the similarities don't stop there, with both possessing an energy blaster that can turn Pokemon into stone, as well as both having technological eyewear, with Hunter J having this visor thing, and this new hunter having a technological monocle. And it has been a long time since we've seen a Latios in the Pokemon anime. Its first appearance was in the episode Pokemon Heroes, Latios and Latias, which again, a lot of this episode is based around that movie. And its last appearance was in the episode The Semi-Final Frontier, in which Latios was under the ownership of Tobias, who was the person who defeated Ash in the Sinnoh League. In my opinion, he was robbed of that league, but we're not talking about that now. We are talking about, of course, this episode. And with Latios being injured, of course, by this Pokemon hunter, Latias loses its psychic connection with Latios. And of course, speaking of old Pokemon, later we see Ash's returning Pokemon, first up being Swallow, who was first seen as a Taillow in the episode You Never Can Taillow, in, of course, the episode which Ash caught it in, and it later evolved into a Swallow in the episode That's Just Swallow. And its last major appearance was in the episode The Semi-Final Frontier, where it battled against Tobias's Latios, which is just a cool bit of connection. Of course, Latios' last appearance was in The Semi-Final Frontier, and that was Ash's Swallow's last major appearance, and Swallow appears in this episode. But of course, its last minor appearance in the Pokemon anime was in the episode Heroes Unite, where Ash returned back to Pallet Town to reunite with all his Pokemon after beating Leon and becoming the world champion. However, with Ash and the gang now knowing that a hunter is after Latias and Latios, Ash and the gang theorise that when Ash first found Latias, of course she was injured, so she could have been injured by the Pokemon hunter. And we actually learn later that Latios gave Latias the opportunity to escape, with Latios being captured by the Pokemon hunter and only managing to break out now, and Latias has been following Ash, hoping to get his help into, of course, helping save Latios. However, we see that Latios is able to heal itself in some cave water, and it is able to re-establish the psychic link with Latias. However, unfortunately, the Pokemon hunter sees Latias and the gang searching for Latios and follows them into the cave where Latios has been healing itself, of course, as Latias was able to find out where Latios was when they re-established the psychic link. So Ash and the gang find Latios, but he is suspicious of them because, of course, of the Pokemon hunter, and starts to attack them. So a battle happens, and Pikachu is able to dispel Latios' attacks with an Iron Tail, which is a reference to Pikachu tying with Tobias' Latios by using an Iron Tail Volt Tackle combination against his Latios' Hyper Beam. Unfortunately, the Pokemon hunter turns up and manages to capture Latios and Latias, even managing to stop Brock and Misty's Pokemon from emerging from their Pokeballs by making his Hydreigon use Scale Shot on their Pokeballs. And as Latias and Latios are fighting to get away from this Pokemon hunter, he turns Latias to stone. But with the help of Pikachu and Steelix, the Pokemon hunter can't capture Latios. However, he tricks Latios into following him, hoping the gang won't be able to get in his way if he lures Latios ahead of him, of course with the bait of the Latias that has been turned to stone. Of course, he does this knowing that Latias will do anything to get Latias free, as Latias was willing to do the same thing to get Latios free. However, Latias is too injured to follow the Pokemon Hunter, so Ash sends Swallow to follow the Pokemon Hunter to see where he goes. And then Brock helps heal Latios because, of course, he is still too injured from his previous attempts at trying to escape the Pokemon Hunter. However, Brock manages to heal him because Brock wants to be a Pokemon doctor, so obviously he helps heal Pokemon. And Ash and the gang, along with Latios, manage to catch up with the Pokemon Hunter. Unfortunately, as they get there, the Pokemon Hunter turns Swallow into stone as well. And shortly after that, he even turns Steelix into stone. And that is just mind-boggling, because Steelix is still, is already kind of made out of stone. It's, made out of some, iron or steel anyway. But it evolved from a Pokemon that was literally a load of stones, and yet even Steelix can be turned into stone. Fortunately, though, they managed to revert all the Pokemon that were turned into stone back to normal by Latios attacking Hydreigon head-on, giving Pikachu the opening to destroy the Energy Blaster with an Iron Tail, which returns all the Pokemon that have been turned to stone back to normal. And to take down the Pokemon Hunter, Ash and Latios battle together, giving the episode its name. So the battle starts with Ash and Latios versus the Pokemon Hunter and his Hydreigon. And Ash commands Latios to use Psychic. But it doesn't affect Hydreigon, as Hydreigon is part Dark type. Even though Latias' Psychic was able to affect Team Rocket's Inkay and Morpeko in the last episode when it blasted Team Rocket off. I actually did a video breaking down the Rocket Revengers, which I'll link up in the cards above. But maybe that was just because it was Team Rocket and it was the end of this episode. However, Latios' Psychic doesn't affect Hydreigon. However, it is revealed Psychic was actually used as a ploy to blind Hydreigon and the Pokemon Hunter, so Latios could hit it with an Aura Sphere to take them out. Of course, Aura Sphere being super effective against Hydreigon. And on top of this, Latias is able to stop the Pokemon Hunter from getting away with his Psychic, as an Officer Jenny arrives to arrest him. So with the Pokemon Hunter out the way, Latias and Latios go separate ways from Ash and the gang. So unfortunately, this wasn't leading to a climactic ending where Ash would catch Latias. But, I suppose it's good Latios and Latias are staying together and kind of being a family. And with Latios and Latias being revealed to be heading a separate way from Ash and the gang, it's revealed they are heading for the city of Alto Mare, which is a city from, you guessed it, the movie Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias. And as they enter this city, they pass Bianca wearing a beret. And Bianca is, of course, a character from Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias, and she was the granddaughter of Lorenzo, the protector of the Latios and Latias in that movie, and also Bianca was the best friend of the Latias in that same movie. However, as they continue to move through the city, they pass Bianca again. However, this Bianca isn't wearing a beret, and this Bianca is probably Latias from the Pokemon movie Pokemon Heroes Latias and Latias. And we know this because this Bianca isn't wearing a beret, as in the Pokemon Heroes Latias and Latias movie, Bianca and Latios were identified differently, as Bianca would wear a beret, but not Latias. And this can be seen in this scene as one Bianca is wearing a beret and the other one isn't, with the one wearing the beret likely to be the real Bianca, and the one not wearing the beret likely to be the Latias. And the Latias Bianca that is swinging on the swing is a reference to, again, Pokemon Heroes Latios and Latias, where Latias pushed Ash on that swing in that movie when it transformed from its Bianca form back into its normal Latias form. And with this episode wrapping up of Latios and Latias settling down in the city of Altomare, it's just really heartwarming to see them together. And also, I do want to mention, at some point in this episode, we saw that Team Rocket return to headquarters by themselves, all three members, Jessie, James and Meowth, but each separately. However, all of them did end up at Team Rocket headquarters, and we will find out what happens to them in the next episode, as this sets up the final episode of Aim to be a Pokemon Master. And then the outro plays, and it is the original Japanese outro. And then we get a sneak peek of the next episode where Ash returns home, reunites with all of his past Pokemon, and actually reflects on if he has become a Pokemon Master. And the final line of this episode is, instead of the normal everyone go and catch Pokemon, it says, Pikachu, let's stay together forever, which is just really heartwarming, and I can't wait to get into the final review of the next episode, the Rainbow and the Pokemon Master. I can't wait to bring the breakdown of that episode out to you guys. However, I think this episode was amazing. Let me know down in the comments below what you thought of this episode, and also, if you like this video, don't forget to leave a like, also subscribe, and share it out. And I will see you in the next one.